What are you talking about? The facts are staring you in the face. They're absolutely staring all of us in the face. That's why we won 53-46 the other night. People are waking up. It's ridiculous that this is going on.
Hey everybody, I am your host Rod, and today I'm reporting to you live from New York City in Times Square, where we have anti-Jeff Sessions being fired protesters. Go figure. Let's go ask some people some questions. I'm making a video on the protest. Any chance I could ask you some questions?
Okay.
So what are you out here protesting for today?
Protesting for democracy, for saving this country from a despot. Just remember one thing: Adolf Hitler was elected democratically.
So should we not have a democracy? I mean, what does that mean?
Democracy is what? Well, we have a republic.
Okay.
Okay.
So should we not have a republic?
Yes. 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 I'm all for a democracy. I'm all for a republic. But when somebody oversteps his bounds and violates the Constitution, it's time to draw the line.
And what red line has Trump crossed here today?
Oh, let's see. Where do you want to start?
Wherever you'd like to. What on top of your head?
The Constitution, the Emollients Clause.
And what did he break? So what did he do that broke what, and why wasn't he impeached?
Taking money from a foreign nation. That's in the Constitution.
So you think he took money from what?
No, I don't think. There's a gentleman whose name is Lawrence Tribe. Call him. He's one of the foremost constitutional attorneys in the country. And he filed the Emollients Clause 2 days after he was inaugurated.
So if it's been almost 2 years since then. Yeah. So why hasn't he been impeached?
The course moves slowly.
Oh, okay, because it's already
slowly.
It's half his first term though. So like maybe it's not even. It sounds like it's not even moving at all. If Trump did something wrong, then I definitely think he should be out of office.
It took 2 years to bring Nixon down.
Okay.
Here we are.
Great. Thank you for your time, sir.
No problem.
It's an interesting picture of Hitler.
Just remember this.
Yikes. Thanks.
Did you read that?
Accuse the other side of that which you are guilty. Joseph Goebbels. Thanks for your time. And wait, what's the NRA one? The NRA has no lives matter, and they have blood on their hands.
Yes, they do.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you, why are you out here protesting today? Do you want to move a little bit to the side?
Because the Constitution protects this right for an independent investigation.
And isn't there still the investigation? Like Trump hasn't, eradicated the investigation or anything yet. So why are we out yet?
Well, he is in the process of firing the people that are in charge of this.
The Attorney General, yeah, Jeff Sessions. Because
he did that.
Yeah, it's curious because I thought Democrats were originally for that. Nancy Pelosi famously called for Sessions not to be confirmed at all. So I thought it'd be a good thing, if anything, that Sessions got fired.
Agreed. I'm not a big fan of Jeff Sessions. However, I am a big fan of Robert Mueller and this investigation. And the investigation is as American as it gets. And this needs to go through. And ultimately, maybe the president will be found not guilty. But right now, we need to go through a process.
So if Mueller found that there was no Russia collusion, would you not want to impeach Trump anymore?
Correct. That's what the American values are.
You saw it on tape that there was Russia collusion when he asked the American people, when he show that there was. No, when he asked Russia to find the emails, there have been 32 people who have either pled guilty or there's been indictments already.
Trump sent
what other kind of administration in U.S. history has had this many criminals?
Trump asked WikiLeaks to hack. Trump asked Russia to hack Hillary's emails.
Trump asked Russia on national television to help him find the emails. But regardless of whatever you think about that, his campaign manager, his national security advisor, his personal lawyer, they've all either pled guilty or received indictments.
Okay, but based on Russia collusion or based on other things? Because I know there have been other things.
What are you talking about? The facts are staring you in the face. They're absolutely staring all of us in the face. That's why we won 53-46 the other night. People are waking up. It's ridiculous that this is going on.
So do you think midterms were a referendum on Trump?
Absolutely.
So Republicans actually gained seats in the Senate. So does that mean anything to you?
Yes, it does mean something, because it means that this U.S. Senate is a completely undemocratic institution when you have 2 senators from the state of Idaho and you have 2 senators from the state of New York. How many people you have in New York and how many people do you have in Idaho?
But that's been the way that
representatives is a fair representative of what the country is, and those people voted 53%. When you look at all the people that voted in the election the other night, it was 53%, just like the poll said it was going to be, against the Republicans.
Okay, but Republicans still gained in the Senate, and the Constitution was made that way, because earlier we were talking about the Constitution. So that's
made it a republic for us. We are tired of a republic. We want a democracy. People in Idaho should not have more of a vote than we do. That's exactly what happens in the Senate.
Okay, then we have a beef with the Constitution, not with Trump.
We have a beef with a liar in the White House that's obviously pandering to white supremacists.
Well, he won a fair election, in all fairness, right? It was a fair election.
You think it's a fair election if Russia if Russia probably paid millions and millions of dollars to hack Facebook accounts and lied to people? Well, if you think it's a fair election that we are all lied to, and that all this bullshit about Hillary Clinton and every other Democrat is all over the internet, and people are scared, and they're economically challenged, and they don't have exposure to other kind of people, and they run out and vote based on their fears. Do you think that's a fair election?
Okay, but things
done.
All right.
I'm done.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for asking me.
Oh, dude, Pitbull's kind of scared me. So I wanted to ask.
That's racist, man.
I don't think it's racist to be a little bit scared of Pitbull. Pitbull, why are you out here protesting today? So I wanted to ask, why are you out here protesting today?
Because I'm pissed off.
And what are you pissed off about?
I just finished voting, and I'm actually trying to be way more educated, but what I do know is that Trump is totally going to fire the guy who's supposed to be investigating him, Mueller, and now we're fucked because it's going to be basically the opposite of justice.
So he hasn't fired Mueller yet. Should we wait for him to fire Mueller before having the protest, or is this still cool to do a little bit,
Hell fucking no. If we waited for that to happen, then we'd be screwed even more. So we have to protest. I think, I know that there, protests could be seen as just protest, and it's different than things actually getting done. But you know what? I see this as a form of something getting done because it's bringing attention to the issue.
Yeah, because a lot of people on the other side are calling a lot of these protests like liberal mobs, and that's obviously a bad thing to get called here if, we're trying to prove a point here. But what crimes do you think Trump's committed?
Well, a lot. First of all, we know that there's 99. We know that he's been colluding with the Russians for his campaign. I mean, it's just strange that it's not obvious due to how many people surrounding him have literally been indicted and are going to jail.
Yeah.
And the fact that just human rights violations, separating families from separating children from their parents.
Yeah. I was just thinking, because it's been 2 years, the Mueller investigation, and if something would come up, I'm just always thinking, like, why hasn't it come up yet? So that's just my thought on the Mueller investigations. But did you have anything else you want to say?
You know what? No, I would just say that I think that it's important that we stay aware of what's going on and stay vigilant. And even though it's been 2 years, I mean, he's done all sorts of things. Look at what he's done, and now he's president.
So even if Mueller doesn't find any Russia stuff, do you guys still think he should be impeachable? Like, does he still have impeachable offenses on his record?
I do think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where our opinion will differ. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I hope you guys are enjoying the interview so far, but please be sure to hit that subscribe button to support me, support free speech, support these interviews. Let's go talk to some more people. I'm making a video on the protest. Any chance I could ask you guys any questions?
Are you from RT?
RT? Yeah. No, I'm an independent journalist. It's just me. I just wanted to ask you guys why you guys are out here protesting.
Because we have a president that doesn't understand law, doesn't care about law, doesn't know the Constitution, doesn't care about the Constitution, doesn't care about the rights and the freedoms that our country was established to create, not only for our own country, but for the world.
So what laws has he broken, up until this point?
I don't know. I can't tell you specifically, but what I do know is that he's a master at getting people to hate each other. And this is a country that was put together to bring people together on earth with peace, love, equality, and harmony. the idea that equality was going to be established on earth. This was the seedbed for equality on earth, and he's undermining, destroying that. He's pitting one person against another, the opposite of equality.
Okay. I also wanted to ask, the midterms recently just happened. The Republicans gained seats in the Senate and lost seats in the House. The House went back to the Democrats. Do you think that at all was a referendum on Trump and how people are feeling about Trump in the country?
I think it was. Well, one of the hard things about the Senate was that there were a lot more Democrats who were up for the Senate seats. Where there were more of them up, so it was a lot harder to keep that. So, but in the House, we're definitely seeing that.
Yeah.
And we are also in terms of the kinds of people, the extremists who lost power in many of the states, such like in Wisconsin and so on. And these guys know more about it than I do by name.
Was this the number one thing on your guys' minds during the midterms? You know, the Mueller investigation, or did you guys have other things on your mind during midterms?
No, it's more than the Mueller investigation. It's all the lies that he tells all the time. You know, what he's doing with immigration.
What's he doing with immigration? I mean, some people think that we should be able to have a wall on the southern border, and he wasn't the first person to propose that. You know, a decade or so
away from their parent.
Okay, but so you're stuck in between a rock and a hard place with child separation, whether or not you should or shouldn't. And Obama has kind of done the same thing. So were we mad about that when Obama did it as well, or are we giving Trump a hard time here?
But we could get the child back with their parent.
Very fair. And it's unethical. We could do better.
Yeah.
We could do better. So what was on your mind during the midterms? Was the Mueller investigation there, or was it something else?
Simply the fact that this president is totally unfit and a liar. Okay. He has made lies or misstatements more than 6,000 times since he's been elected. People keep track. He's unfit. He should be out of office.
I wanted to ask also, the last question, was there anything that you guys liked about Trump? Was there one thing that Trump did that may be a positive?
I can't think of a thing.
I can't think of one thing. He's despicable.
No, it's a man.
So I think we had 4% GDP last quarter and 3.5%.
That has nothing to do with him.
Nothing to do with that whatsoever.
Record low Black and Hispanic unemployment.
Nothing to do with him.
The turnaround started in 2009.
Okay.
And if you shoot a rocket off in 2009 and it continues, do you take credit for it in 2017?
Okay. But let me ask. So now if the market crashes, would we blame Trump, or would we still have the same logic and then give it back to Obama?
More about what was going on and what really caused it.
That's fair.
You're talking to a former Merrill Lynch person.
I'm speaking to who?
You're talking to a former Merrill Lynch person. There's a lot more facts one needs to know before one makes a judgment about that.
Okay. Is there anything else you guys wanted to say? Thanks for your time, guys. I'm an independent journalist. It's really just me. So I wanted to ask you why you... Video? Yeah. If not, that's okay too. So I wanted to ask, why are you out here protesting today?
Because trying to protect the investigation into this president.
And has Trump done anything to make you worried about that? Has he actually done anything to Mueller's scope?
Well, it seems like he's been obstructing justice the whole time, and with the firing of Sessions yesterday, and certainly not defending Sessions by any way, shape, or form, but by firing him, it's one step closer to firing Mueller.
It's funny that you bring that up, because that was also going to be one of my questions. So Nancy Pelosi was even saying that she didn't want Sessions to be confirmed at all. So shouldn't a lot of Democrats be happy that Sessions was fired?
Well, you're always happy when a racist isn't in a position of power.
Doesn't seem like it right now, but...
Well, you know, for the greater good.
Yeah. For the record, not a fan of Sessions, and I was happy he got fired, so for that reason. Anything else you want to say?
Fuck Trump.
Thank you for your time. On the protest, any chance I could ask you any questions? So I wanted to ask, why are you out here protesting today?
I'm out here protesting today for democracy.
And I see you have a sign over here. It says, "I pledge allegiance to the majority of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation under democracy with liberty and justice for all, for our most vulnerable."
For our most vulnerable. Yeah.
So are you saying he wasn't elected like democratically, or what's the beef here with the sign?
Well, okay, this isn't beef. This is actually an affirmation of what democracy is about and what this country stands for. This is specifically about an election process process that just happened and a fear that Donald Trump has, because now that we have a majority in Congress, we can actually investigate him for crimes that he's committed, and it's necessary for us to be able to perform the rights that the government and the people have. So that is why I'm here.
So majority in the House, which will allow them to begin investigations, but not the Senate.
Well, when I say majority here, like for the sign specifically, I'm saying that there's a majority of Americans who are fighting for equality and justice, and that there's a select few within power right now who are attempting to hold on to something that they are fearful of losing. And so when I'm talking about the justice for the majority, it's an end to gun violence, it's an end to scare tactics against immigrants and asylum seekers, and it's an end to thinking that the majority of America will have economic stability when all of the wealth is going to the 1%.
I wanted to ask, who do you think who do you have as your Democratic leaders?
Like in power right now?
And like, who do you want to see? I'm assuming you're going to vote in 2020 for president. Like, who are your leaders now in the party?
I was inspired by Beto. I am inspired by our public advocate, or who I hope will be our public advocate, Jimani, who won the AG race, but now will be able to go on, Jimani D. Williams, in the New York State. I'm inspired by
I know Nancy Pelosi wants to be the Speaker of the House. Like, are you in support of that? Are all Democrats on the same page about who they want to lead? And
no, I think that I'm definitely part of a more progressive wave of Democrats, and I actually haven't seen the Democratic Party actually embrace us, and I'm hoping that they will understand that there's a grassroots movement that's happening, and that there are new leaders that they might not have even heard of that are going to be really critical to making a democratic country.
Well, as far as the Democratic Socialists go, I feel like we have made a lot of progress. I mean, the Socialists have made a lot of progress with Julia Salazar in the Bushwick district near Bushwick, and then we also had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So progress at least here.
Yes, and I think it's important to say Democratic Socialist, because that's the clarifying term, because people manipulate the idea of socialism. Not that there's things that are wrong with socialism. I think that other smaller countries might be able to have that and use that as their governing structure, but we're talking about democratic socialism here, and so there is structure in place, and it's not anything to fear. That there's actually the ability to have programs such as universal health care, universal pre-K rights to college or education or technical schools as well.
So I definitely see that divide in the Democratic Party. Do you think they'll be able to pull it together for the 2020 election to win? Because I know a lot of the Bernie bros were really burnt out, after there was a lot of rigging with what Hillary Clinton did. So I know a lot of Bernie bros were burnt out because of that. I want to ask, do you think they'll be able to meld that divide in 2020?
Again, I think you have to think strategically and logically. I think that there are fractions and fractures within every single party and candidate. I was not a supporter of the Bernie bros, who I think are going a bit too extreme. I am a democratic socialist, and I think that there is necessity to also understand how we play our part in democracy, and we both work within structures and then we work to re-engage them and reshape them. So do I think that there's possibility? I think that if we continue to work and be due diligent and be intelligent with how our tactics are, that it can happen. But it's going to take a lot of dialogue and engagement, and we're going to have to learn how to have really considered conversations. And there are going to be times when we may argue with each other, but there has to be an ultimate cause. And when there are lives of the most vulnerable people at stake, we have to look past ourselves and see what can we do to make sure that the majority of the people are safe in this country, whether they are citizens or immigrants or asylum seekers.
Great, thank you for your time. Impressively nuanced.
Thank you.
Why are you out here protesting today?
Well, if governments don't have legitimacy, society falls apart. And if the people who swear to defend the Constitution don't. So we need to start with the emoluments clause. Trump swore to obey the Constitution, and he's nakedly violating it. And when that happens, there's a small gap between people objecting and people no longer thinking that's a legitimate government.
So where do you think he violated the Constitution?
He is doing business with foreign powers, which violates the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution, which says he can't receive anything of value from a foreign government.
And that's the evidence that you think will come out in the Mueller investigation, or it already...
It's just true.
Oh, so why hasn't he been impeached yet, if that's the case? So why are we worried about the Mueller investigation if the evidence already came out?
Because the Republicans in Congress are not obeying their oath.
So if Mueller comes and finds evidence against them, do you think the Republican Senate would impeach him?
I don't think they have any shame. I don't think that they take their oath seriously.
You're on the protest. Can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Why are you out here protesting tonight?
Because I'm terrified for our country.
And what's making you terrified? What has Trump done? I hear people saying Trump is not above the law. What has he done to make himself above the law?
By firing Sessions, he's a step closer to firing Mueller and ending his conspiracy, the investigation into his conspiracy to collude with the Russians.
So do you think Trump colluded with the Russians?
Probably not directly.
And I also wanted to ask, I know Democrats aren't usually a fan of Jeff Sessions. I know Nancy Pelosi previously didn't want him to even be confirmed as the original Attorney General. So aren't we moving goalposts here? What are we really looking for as a solution?
Well, Jeff Sessions is a terrible human being. He was denied on good grounds a judicial appointment years ago.
So shouldn't you guys be happy that he's getting fired?
No, because it's a step toward sabotaging Mueller's investigation.
Okay, and do you think there should be any limits on Mueller's investigation? Because I know there are a lot of thoughts of him going above and beyond looking for things in Russia. You know, Mueller's investigation might come up with something, but will it directly be related to Mueller, and does it need to be?
His charge is relatively broad. There are many things that he can investigate that are related to the Russian issue that are consistent with his mandate.
Yeah, and I also wanted to ask, so midterms just passed, and you know the Republicans were able to gain a little bit in the Senate and lost some in the House. Do you think that's a referendum at all on Trump?
I don't think it's a referendum. The total vote for the Senate was like 55% Democratic.
Yeah, but I mean, wait. So California had 2 Democratic candidates, and there's some other things that make the numbers look so skewed. There's no popular, vote for Senate elections like that.
I'm just saying that that makes clear that it was not a referendum. Yes, we are stuck with a system by which the small states have power equal to the big states. That's what the founders established. But I don't think it impossible that if Mueller comes up with a hard-hitting indictment and the House of Representatives files articles of impeachment, there could be enough Republican enough Republicans could join the Democrats that he could be impeached.
So if Mueller didn't come out with anything in his investigation, you'd be okay with that, and we could clear Trump's name, right?
Well, I wouldn't clear his name. I mean, there are lots of other things that he's done that are not criminal. I mean, all the lies, those are not criminal.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you one last thing. So I know people yesterday were protesting at Tucker Carlson's house. Are you against protests like that and like doxing people like that?
I'm sorry, I don't know which protest you're talking
Tucker
about.
Carlson, there was in D.C. last night, a bunch of people went to his house, smashed his door, and were protesting outside of his house.
Oh, well, that's terrible. No.
Okay. I'm glad that we could agree on that. Is there anything else you want to say?
I think that's it. I think we have a very scary moment in our country's history now, and I hope I'm wrong to be terrified.
Me too. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I wanted your thoughts down below in the comments on the interviews that did happen. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. Until next time, stay barely informed.